Hey everyone, it's Z for Out of This Binary, and today we're talking about pronouns. There are a lot of different pronouns in English that were created mostly by non-binary people to come up with pronouns for themselves or a gender-neutral equivalent to he or she pronouns. The most common one, and the only one that is largely in use in the English language, is they, them, their pronouns. Those are the pronouns that I have picked for myself. I have seen people say that whatever set of pronouns that they chose sort of felt really right for them, and it had this moment where they clicked with the pronoun, and it seemed like, yes, that sounds right. I have never had that. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, trying to find pronouns that fit me, and I found, extensive lists of lots of different pronouns, and I tried all of them. I tried things like writing down a third-person description of me. Also, there's this website where you can choose a pronoun set, and you can choose a name for yourself, and it takes a passage from a famous book, and it replaces the character's name with your name, and the character's pronouns with your pronouns, and you can read it and see if it feels right for you. That was really helpful for me. I'm going to link it in the description box below. I especially like the Alice in Wonderland one, because I just like Alice in Wonderland. But, so I did that, and I just wrote stuff down, and I tried to see if any of these things fit for me, if I could have this click moment, and I didn't. And so I sort of accepted that I probably wasn't going to find pronouns in this language that fit me. And maybe if someone makes new pronouns, or maybe if I was born speaking another language and I came up with pronouns that worked in that language, I would find pronouns that click for me, but I haven't. So what I did is I chose they because it's already in use, so it's easiest for people to use, and that way people won't be able to complain when I ask them to use my pronouns. They won't be able to be like, I have to learn a whole new set of pronouns. No, you don't. You already know they, them, theirs. Of course, people will still complain and say, that's too hard. Suck it up. I don't mean to sound harsh, but really, you should at least try to use people's pronouns. If you mess up, then that's okay, as long as you keep on trying. But to not even try, that's rude. And just because you don't want to do it doesn't make it not rude. You see what I mean? So anyway, that's why I chose they, them pronouns. In seeing and reading about different pronouns on the internet, I have seen two categories of pronouns. I have seen pronouns that have meant to be a gender-neutral pronoun, an alternative to he or she or they. Stuff like z, zem, zers, or ni, nem, near, or Those are the most common ones. What are some other ones? Oh my god, I can't think of any. What is wrong with me? I know that there are a lot. Oh, there's some really old-fashioned ones like co-self and like thon, which I think were coined in like the 1970s or something like that. I don't know. It was like several years from before now. So that shows that it's not a modern thing to be coming up with gender-neutral pronouns. So there are those which are meant to be specifically gender-neutral. And then there are noun self pronouns, which is where you take a noun and you sort of take like part of the noun and then you make it the basic part of the pronoun set. The one that I have seen, there are two that I've seen very often that I remember. One was like faers. Is it? Yeah. Though I think that's nominative and possessive, and I don't know what the objective would be. And then there is like bun, as in like a bunny. Buns. You know, I'm gonna put a link below. Don't take my word for exactly what the conjugation is. I don't remember. So I think that the noun self pronouns, they seem kind of recent. I know that I have only seen people talking about them in posts and conversations in like the last few years. And in the more mainstream knowledge of pronouns, they really aren't there, which is what makes me think that they're probably really recent. Now, there are a lot of people, when confronted with these noun self pronouns, who react by thinking it's ridiculous. And it's certainly, the structure of it is very different from the pronouns that we already have, because it's based on a noun. You know, not just presumably, I don't know that much about the English language. I mean, I know about the English language. What I'm trying to say is, I don't know much about, like, the history of English, so presumably, like, he, she, they pronouns are just made up of, like, random letters? Who knows? But they're not, as far as I know, they're not based on a noun. And if they are, it's probably in, like, Old English, very, very far away. So it sounds ridiculous to some people. And so what they do is they say, they like condemn people who like these pronouns and use these pronouns. They will refuse to use these pronouns for people because they think it's ridiculous. And they will say things like, no one is going to take non-binary people seriously, or no one's going to take trans people seriously if they use these ridiculous pronouns. What I think is that, okay, like, whether or not you think they're ridiculous doesn't matter. Like, you can think they're ridiculous, I don't care. But you need to respect people's pronouns. And even if they're hard to say, even if they sound weird, even if you would never go by those pronouns and you don't know why anyone would want to go by those pronouns, that doesn't matter. As long as the pronouns aren't disrespectful in some way, and I don't see how they would be, you need to use, or at least try to use, people's pronouns. As for the argument that the fact that they're ridiculous will make people not take us seriously, people already don't take us seriously. Cis people don't take us seriously, binary trans people don't take us seriously. even some non-binary trans people don't take other non-binary trans people who either don't have dysphoria or who use these pronouns, they don't take them seriously. So, no matter who you are, there's going to be someone who doesn't take you seriously. What matters is whether you can take yourself seriously and whether your community can take you seriously. And, you know, like, if a set of pronouns keeps someone from feeling dysphoric, then why would you try and take that away from them? Like, do you want them to feel bad using the wrong pronouns? No, you don't. So even if you think it's ridiculous, even if you're snotty about the use of language, if you're like one of those people who doesn't like slang or whatever, and you're like, no, it's not in the dictionary, therefore it's not real. No. Like, I mean, I don't know what to say beyond that. Just please respect people's pronouns. And, you know, honestly, most of these people don't even know someone who uses noun self pronouns in real life. They're just arguing about it on the internet. And, I mean, I'm not, like, gonna say that the internet doesn't matter, because the internet matters. Things that happen on the internet are happening in real life, but I don't know what to say. Okay, so I'm done talking about that. What else? If you're binary trans, then people will know the pronouns that you want them to use. Say you're a binary trans guy, and you come out to someone and you tell them that you're a trans guy, then they will know that you want them to use he, him, his pronouns. Or they will, like, assuming that that's what you want, they will already know that, and maybe they will use it, maybe they won't, depending on how ignorant or bigoted they are. But you don't have to explain, you don't have to, like, rearrange their knowledge of pronouns. But if you're non-binary and you don't use he or she pronouns, then you have to explain whatever pronouns it is that you do use. Even though they, them, their pronouns are widely in use in the English language, the way it is used is when you don't know the person's gender. And so, when people know your birth sex, then they assume they know your gender, and so they will refuse to use they for you. Now, anyone who is, like, English is their first language, or they're fluent in English, should be able to understand this well enough that when they tell you that, when you tell them that you're non-binary and you want them to use they pronouns, then they should be able to understand that because your gender, like, because you're saying your gender goes with those pronouns, then those are the appropriate pronouns for you. But it might take a while for people to realize that, like, they may, like, say, like, the words back to you, but they don't really understand that your birth sex is not your gender. And so it might take some time to get it into their heads. And, you know, then it will be easier for them to use those pronouns. Now, it's an even bigger struggle if you want them to use pronouns that aren't they, he, or she, because none of those pronouns are like widely used in the English language. So you have to teach them the pronouns, how to conjugate it, and it will probably take them a while, unfortunately. Sometimes people who would use they pronouns will not use any other gender neutral or non-binary pronouns other than he and she. And sometimes, like, when I came out to one of my aunts, she said it would be very hard to use they pronouns, and so she asked if she could just use my name. So you might get a response like that. That was okay with me, so I said yes. But if it's not okay with you, if someone tries to make like a bargain with you, like, oh, I won't use Z pronouns, but I will use they pronouns, and you're not okay with it, like, tell them. I mean, obviously, if there's like a hierarchy, then you should tell them like what you prefer over something else. Like, for example, you could say something like, no, they're not interchangeable. I want you to use these theirs pronouns. But if you refuse to do that, then they pronouns are better than he or she pronouns. Something like that. That's just an example of how it could go. So yeah, if you're looking for your pronouns right now, I wish you luck on that journey. And if you're trying to get people to use your pronouns, I also wish you luck on that journey. I am kind of there right now because, like, I've just started college and I've met a bunch of new people, and some people some people I've told, most I've not, because the opportunity hasn't really come up. And I've just come to this point where I'm hanging out with this group of people, and one of them knows, and she uses my pronouns, which I really appreciate, because no one has regularly used my pronouns before. And the other two people don't know yet, and I'm trying to figure out a way to tell them. And I don't know if they've noticed that one person is using they for me, but if they have, they haven't said anything about it. So I'm wondering if it's going to come to a head that way, or if there's going to come an opportunity and I can be like, hey, by the way, I use they, them pronouns. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. One thing that people are trying to do, especially in LGBTQ spaces, is to introduce the formality of asking for people's pronouns when you meet them, or like offering your own when you introduce yourself. So like, hey, I'm Z and I use they, them, their pronouns. What are your pronouns and name? Like, what is your name and pronouns? And I think that if that was like more mainstream, it would be way easier. Like, you know, you could argue that it would be a hassle for everybody to be introducing themselves like that when most people are cis. But, I mean, like, I don't think it has to be that everyone is introducing themselves like that. It could be just that, it's just accepted to introduce yourself like that, even if you don't have to. Like, it could be something in society that is sort of formal, and, so if it was sort of formal, it's like not everyone has to do it if they don't want to, but if someone did do it, they wouldn't get the response that they would get now if you, like, went outside and did that, which is, like, depending on what your pronouns are. Like, if your pronouns are he or she, then they would be like, either, of course they are, like, why are you telling me that? Or, no, they aren't, you're a he or you're a she. Or if you have non-binary pronouns, they might say, what? You can't go by those pronouns. That doesn't make any sense. And then you have to explain it to them. But if it was just public knowledge that people didn't always go by either he or she pronouns, that there are exceptions, then it would be a lot easier. Life would be a lot easier. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to say on pronouns. Yeah. So good luck with your pronouns. Please check out the links that I have below in the description box. And I'll see you next week. Bye.